Sean P coming in live. This is Sean P Experience. How y'all doing out there on this Monday evening? This is a very, very special show. I mean, all of my shows are special. I love each and every one of my guests. But sometimes it's a little bit different. Man, for the first time on Sitting with the Griots on YouTube, I got my big brother in the building. You see him on the screen right there. My man Kofi is in the building, aka Dr. Wade, I call him the Red Ranger. You know what I mean? He is the head Thundercat of the Griot podcast, man. And we are here today talking about this brand new book that just came out today, by the way. From Privilege to Genocide. Hold that thing up for you. That beautiful cover, man. Beautiful cover. Look at that spine. Come on, man. How you doing, my brother? How you doing? How you doing? Peace, peace.
Peace, man. I'm good, man. I'm excited, man. This is my first time on the YouTube side. I've been on the Sean Experience sitting with the Griots on the Instagram side. So this is my very first time, man, on the YouTube side. So I'm excited.
Let me give you a proper full introduction, right? Kofi Piesie is a Pan-African lecturer and author and is a member of the Shishu Ma Ni Meadow Nature, a group that studies ancient Egyptian writing and language. The Master Warrior clan. The group studies intensively in West Africa and Kofi Piesie research team that researches and studies African American and African history, culture, writing, and language. Kofi has been an independent researcher for 10 years and has been presenting information for 8 years using ancient Egyptian word,
Tep S. Tep
there it
S.
is, the
The
best,
correct. Mhm.
which means the correct method. And this is
Mhm.
real cool because Kofi, if you know Kofi, he is a supreme, intricate, detailed scholar. So that's a correct method. It's perfect for him. Kofi is the CEO and owner of Same Tree, Different Branches Publishing, and the company provides a one-stop shop for authors, researchers, teachers, and entrepreneurs and business owners. Company prides itself on quality work and a quick turnaround service. I'm gonna tell you right now, as a customer of Same Tree, Different Branches myself, the turnaround is amazing. It's quick. If he set a deadline, he gonna damn near hurt himself, literally, to make the deadline happen, man. So that's my man Kobe, man. Come on to the show, man. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Like I said, man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited about the interview, man. Discussing my new book. But I mean, I'm always excited, man, when we get together, man, and we do something together, man. So I'm always excited, man.
Yeah. Dr. Wade is in the building. I see you, Dr. Wade. Peace, peace. What's up, my
Peace,
sister?
peace.
Peace. So Kobe, out the gate, bro. I love asking authors this question, but for you, it's gonna be extra special. So this show is called Sitting with the Griots. And last year we did our book, The Modern Day Griot, right?
Mhm,
Griots and Griotes. I
mhm.
love to ask authors, how do you feel about the thought of being a modern day griot and carrying that tradition, carrying that culture in today's time with our tools that we have available to us? How do you feel about that title and wearing it?
Oh man, it's an important title, right? But not only as it's important as a title, it's important to be to apply it, right? So we know in this day and time that there are all types of censorship when it comes to information that pertains to our culture and our tradition. We didn't know there's all type of bans that are happening from state to state when it comes to the ugly history in the United States that they have afflicted upon our people, right? Um, we understand the various slave trades, the Barbary Coast slave trade, the Atlantic Coast slave trade, and what that has done for us strip us of a thorough knowledge of ourselves, right? So we have lost a sense of who we are. So it is very important in this day and time for us to grasp on to the legacy of those who were called the griots and griotes, right? Those are people who preserve their history, right? Those who tell stories, those who teach, those who are mediators, those who are ambassadors, those who are critical thinkers, right? So it's very important in this day and time, right, to be a griot, and take on that mantle and put it into action. So we able to preserve our culture, our legacy, far as what we're doing here in the United States, as well as the work that our people are doing over there in the motherland.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. So whenever you're up at night, or whenever you're writing, you're creating, you're making videos, you're doing that too. Just anywhere you put out information, are you thinking about the tradition of the griot as you're doing it, or it's something that happens very indirectly? I love asking that question too.
Well, it's me. I'm whatever role or title that someone gives me or something that I earn, I'm always going to facilitate that. I'm always going to think about that. So I take being a griot serious. I mean, I got griot on everything. Everything that we particularly do, the brand is griot. You know, modern day griots. I got it plastered all over in my room. We wrote a book about it. So I'm always thinking about, being a griot. I'm always thinking about conveying information, whether it's through book form, whether it's through content, you know what I'm saying? So I'm always thinking about it, and everything that I do, I'm always have the tag modern day griots or modern day griots and griots in it to let you know that I am a modern day griot and I am facilitating the role of a modern day griot by preserving our history, by telling the truth, by telling our who and what we are, how great we are, how great our ancestors were, the contributions that they made to the world. So I'm always trying to convey that, whether it's in text or in content.
Yeah, I want to always tell a backstory a little bit for a couple seconds. I'm not gonna take no time with that, but I said it before. I gotta say it again. Way before I ever talked to Kofi personally, I was a mere fan of his on YouTube for years. Whenever he would put his lectures up on YouTube, his PowerPoint presentations, the way he would disseminate information, the way he would explain it, the way anybody could grasp it, anybody could get it, and make it make sense and show documentation behind that. He's always done a masterful, prideful job in doing that role. So I want to just say that publicly on the mic that before I even knew you as a homeboy, I'm not just saying that. That's how I saw you anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Most definitely, man. And and we always had just from far as me reaching out to you and you are to be a part of my interview process years ago. When I had my platform for as interviewing other authors, peace, Dr. Ashley Wade, peace, LA, as well, man. Y'all please like and share the show. But our first show that we ever did, we had such a great chemistry. I wish we would have did something after we did the interview. And I interviewed you on your What's Your Kick book, man. So we always had great chemistry, man. And we kind of kept in touch over the years. And when I got on the Instagram side and I seen what you was doing on the Instagram side, and then we had that interview with my African hair doing before and after slavery book on the Instagram side. Man, I just knew right then, man, I wasn't gonna pass up on the opportunity again, man. Me and this brother got to do something. He's a griot, I'm a griot, so what better way than two griots merging together and developing a brand and putting out some sound and accurate information for the people.
So Kofi, an old saying said that you can't judge a book by its cover, and things like that get said for a long time. I want you to take me inside of your creative, visionary mind you have. Whenever you're putting together a cover like this, whenever you're putting together a product like this, what goes through your mind in your creation process? Like, walk us a little bit. Don't give us all the secrets, but just give us a little bit of the insight of not just this, but all of your covers. And you are a publisher. You make books for other people, not just
Mhm,
yourself. What are
mhm.
you going through with that blank screen on there? Like, man, where am I taking this? What's that process like for you?
Well, it always sometimes, for a client, they may already have idea. A lot of times they give me creative control. So as I'm reading and editing, my mind is always going about how can I illustrate the front cover to depict what's inside of the book. And the same process happened with this From Privilege to Genocide. Um, I wanted an image to depict exactly what I was talking about. I always go across several different images when creating things. A lot of times I may create 3 or 4 different book covers before I finalize a book cover and say, hey, this is what it is, because I may through the process of me writing something or editing something for a client, something may hit me later on, something may hit me then. So, and I'm a person that I always like to jot notes down. So even in the process of me writing my own stuff and editing my own stuff or doing the client stuff, I'm always, if there's a thought or ideal that pops in, I'm writing it down. I always go back and revisit that thought. I may merge it with something else. I may not even use what I wrote down in that day, but I'm always thinking, how can the book cover match what's going on inside or depict what's going on inside of the book? Just like this in here, I had like 3 book covers. One of them was the Intiyawa, which was the young people that the president, one of the president that got bombed, juvenile, they had a young organization that transpired, that they put together to make the genocide successful in 1994. So I had an image of those young boys with assault rifles and stuff on them, but I wanted to use something else, so I scratched that and I ended up going with this
And
picture right here. Mhm.
we always do. We never waste anything. Definitely keep that image on standby for something else. Don't ever.
Yeah,
We never
yeah,
gonna trash it. We're gonna just put it to the side on the little back burner. We
yeah,
ain't gonna trash it. There's
yeah.
so many things to be used for it. There's so many different pieces of content. For anybody
Mhm.
out there listening, we always talking about ways that you and I talk at 2 and 3 in the morning about content. Everything is to be used. It could be a reel. It could be a full out
Mhm.
video. It could be a cover on something else. I mean,
Yep.
who knows? People don't realize this. Our modern day Griot, the ebook, that ebook cover, it could have easily been the main cover, or vice versa. It's just the
Mhm.
way it fell out. But we didn't scrap any of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Because the first, I think I did about 4 or 5 different covers for the Acting on Your Dreams and Vision book, and I need to throw them things up there so people can see what it is. I loved them at that moment, but then it was like it just didn't speak to me after a few days. So I always went in transition. But I'm gonna throw them up there so people can see them.
And we was talking to D yesterday about how narrators could use bloopers when they messing up, right? Because we always have it in my mind, like as if these narrators are so great, they go into the booth and just one time read that thing and they get out the booth, and they just like they Jay-Z, right? They're doing hundreds of takes.
Uh-huh.
We're just not seeing that. So the
Mm,
thing that what you just said, like you're making multiple covers. We seeing that one that you selected,
mhm.
but it's not the only thing that was on the wall and see if it stick kind of concept. You know what I mean? So I think for the viewers and for the up and coming writers, they need to see the behind the scenes of how that process go.
Right. Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, well, that's
My
the
man
process.
Ladarius,
Mhm.
my man Ladarius asks, does depicting the image help you write? Have you ever depicted the image first? That's a great question, actually.
Yes, I have. I have my very first um my very first book, my solo book, and the very first issue of my research team. I have a research team. We hadn't did anything in a while. The Kofi Piesie research team, and we have 5 different volumes out. We call them spirit volumes. So Spears of the Mossy, a historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars, volume 1. That cover was done, and that cover we inspired me to write my chapters on what it is. So that chapter, I use that as a template for motivation, as well as my as I learn, we all learn, sharing information with others. Um, Book cover at the time.
Man, Kofi, I so love you said that. And I'm glad you asked that question, right? Because when I did my first book, What's Your Kick, I had the book cover way before I finished writing the book.
Mhm.
So I had that book cover as my phone screensaver. I had it as my laptop screensaver. Like anywhere around me, I had it in front of my face. So it was like at 2 in the morning when I don't feel like writing, like, bro, this cover is way too fire for it not to get finished, right?
Mhm.
We're doing the editing process. We're doing the layout. Like people don't realize how many processes it takes to come to manifest. And as we're
Mhm.
doing those things, it's like, bro, this book cover is way too fire for you not to finish this project, right? So it could be a very motivating thing if you have the cover early. And Kofi knows in our process, and Dr. Wade knows this too now. I'm always like, boy, whenever Kofi do that, Kofi won't know this. I tell Dr. Wade, boy, Dr. Wade, the minute Kofi got that cover done, boy, it's on. You don't know that part of the that's the back door conversation. That's Dr. Wade, boy, Kofi, do that book cover. It's about to be like, I'm waiting for it.
Mhm.
Waiting for it. So I think in our future projects, I might ask for the cover first. Like, man, give me put together
That's
something. Even a little mock-up, just to give me a
yeah.
little motivation, you know.
It's all good. Yeah, just let me know because because my process now, that's just my process. But if I'm working with co-authors, then I have to consider them as well. So it's whatever we think is more suitable for the team, right? Whether I agree or whether you agree or whether Dr. Wade agree or don't disagree, it's what we think is the best collective for this project. So I don't have no problem doing that. But like a lot of times on my process now, I always want to let the text on the page paint the picture. You know what I'm saying? Where it gets me to create these different ideals and concepts and drawing, because with this book, I took pieces of three different images and merged them all together to make one picture, right? It wasn't, I just didn't pull something from one. All those things was extracted from different images, and pieced together to look like that. But in the beginning, my process, like I said, that book cover had to be right there on hand, because that's going to give me the motivation to go ahead and get the job done. I got to get on my job, you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So Kofi, you are a self-published author. Today is your publishing day, brother.
Yes,
So let me
sir.
say it on the mic on my show. Happy Pub Day, as they say in the book world. In the standard world, Tuesday is Pub Day. We all
Mhm.
know from time memorial, all your media, all your back in the days, the music came out on Tuesdays,
Uh-huh.
all the books came out on Tuesdays, et cetera, et cetera. But now we live in a time where you can drop whenever, like Kendrick Lamar a couple days ago, he just dropped.
Yeah.
There's no lead up, there's no rollout, there's no promo. You press that button when you want. Oh my God, Kendrick came out. So the same thing, we have the advantage of
Yes.
whenever we say, it's up, it's up. And so
Yeah.
today is your pub day from privilege to genocide. The Hutu and the Tutsi and its colonial roots is available right now. Same three different branches in three formats: paperback,
Mhm.
ebook, and
Mhm.
now also audio. That's right. We have audio narration on the second project. So tell me, Kofi, how does it feel publishing on Mondays, not a traditional day? And tell me about the thought process behind making that choice, man.
One, I want to go. What's up with it, cool Carlos? What's up, man?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. What up? Well, peace to the God, man. Peace to the chat.
reach for you hopping on.
Keep y'all questions coming too. Keep y'all questions coming. I'm trying to get them.
Uh-huh. I don't, me. I don't. I got a thing against the machine. Like I people doubt people that are self-published authors, right? And I got a bad thing with that, because they feel like we can't be successful in our own right by not, self-publishing and not going through a traditional publishing company. So I'm against the grain when it comes to that. I rather be able to have full creative control. I rather be able to have all the rights to my intellectual property, because when we get in on the traditional side of publishing, a lot of those people don't own but a portion of their intellectual property. Some of them don't even own any rights, so they put them on other websites where they don't even get any of that money. So it's a good side and a bad side on both sides. But I'm always against on the traditional side. So I rather control my own destiny. I rather control how I'm going to get paid, and I want all my money for my intellectual property. I want to go against the grain. If they say this is the traditional day where it's supposed to come out, I'm gonna do the opposite of that, because I'm not controlled, manufactured by this establishment. I'm trying to build something where people will be proud to be self-published authors and control their own destiny and don't have to sell any of their rights to their own intellectual property and be able to be be able to make a living off of the things that they like to do, because there is money in being a writer. You know what I'm saying? There is money in being a creator. So what we have to do is we have to create a resume. So that's what we're doing. We're creating a resume. So that's why we gonna control our own destiny. We're gonna promote our own products. We gonna start our own podcast. We gonna control the narratives of our own intellectual property. We're gonna promote our own services and products, right? We're gonna master the camera. We're gonna put out our own content when it comes to commercials, right? We're gonna be in front of everything. So we're creating a resume. So we're based on ownership. And with ownership, I want partnership. I don't want to give my rights to anybody, half of my rights, 30% of my rights, 70% of my rights. I don't want to give away where I don't get any royalties. I want people to come to the table once they see the resume and say, let's partner. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's all about ownership. And I'm gonna always be about ownership. And I don't care nothing else about those other traditional brands.
Total cosign that, bro. Total cosign. So there is an audio book to this book, and audio books are taking off. It's a booming thing right now. Tell me about the process of making an audio book for this book. What was that like for you? How is it going? Tell us about the narrator, his name, all those
Okay.
things. Promote him a little bit.
All
So I
right.
heard the audio book for the audience. I heard the audio book a couple days ago. Phenomenal, awesome, awesome cadence, rhythm, his voice, the dictation of it. He did an amazing audio job. So just for anybody out there, you can't get the audio, and I always advocate immersion reading, which is having the physical book and the audio book
At the same.
simultaneously help you increase your focus, increase your pace. You won't get
Mhm.
as distracted, things of that nature. So tell them about that, Kofi.
Okay. Well, the initial goal was to have D. Lewis to narrate the book again. So I reached out to D. Lewis in the same sense. They were still in the process of finishing Acting on Your Dreams and Vision. The initial date for Acting on Your Dreams and Vision supposed to be at the end of August. So I reached out, but it took a couple of more weeks and before they was able to finish the thing. But I sent it out a thing, and I was just waiting on them to send me, a invoice and how much it costs. You know what I'm saying? Because they calculated how many words per hour. They charge this amount of hour and such and such. So they weren't able to get back to me in time. And about time I did receive the invoice, it was I was ready to go because I'm like, I got to get this thing out. So I was gonna do it myself, try to do it myself. And I got with D. Lewis, and D. Lewis was gonna assist me in any way possible to do it. And so I ordered the eyeball, and then I started trying to clean out the closet and get inside the closet or even do it. But now, with what you said, Sean, I don't have to get in the closet. You know what I'm saying? I can do it in an open space in here. But I'm gonna isolate one side of them, put cones and stuff up on one side, you know what I'm saying? So the vocals also just put extra protection, it won't bounce back and feed into the microphone. But anyway, so I'm at work and I'm chopping up with a brother, Damien. He does music. So I was trying to sell some music, some of my music equipment that I don't use that was in the storage. And so we got on his subject of Acting on Your Dreams and Vision book. This was a book that this brother had bought from us. And the audio book narration came up about the Acting on Your Dreams and Vision book. And I told him it was finna get ready to come out. And I he told me about a music engineer. And I was like, man, I'm finna try to do it myself. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I reached out to a local brother named Re-Up that I know, who is a music engineer who travels and do things. He said, well, this guy in New Orleans is a music engineer. I went to school for music engineering. I go home to New Orleans. He's Damon's from New Orleans. I go home once a month. He has a big studio. This is his profession. He does music for a living. He's a music engineer. He mix and master vocals, separate music and all this other type of stuff. He's has done a few books. I can turn you on to him. So he turned me on to Carter. The narrator is called Carter Johnson. So he's an older guy. He's in his 50s. And he's been a music engineer for over 20 years, he says. So he hasn't too long. It's kind of book narration kind of fell in his lap. I think I'm like the fourth or fifth person book he's narrated. He rather be preferred as a music engineer because that's his profession. He's not, from far as when we talking, he's not seeking out to be a book narrator. But if it come across his table, he'll do it, because he almost didn't even do my book because I got frustrated and I had hit D up about it and telling D Lewis, the narrator, about my frustration and what was transpiring after I sent the money, after he sent me a snippet of an audio book that he's done. So his voice and him understanding vocals in pertain, because he's a music engineer, and just his voice alone, I said I needed this voice for this publication. And these are certain things he like to do for when it comes to his nonfiction. I ain't gonna say historical nonfiction. I'm gonna just say nonfiction. He said he have done something where he has to develop these different characters and personalities, but that's not his thing because he's not a book narrator. He'll do those things, but he preferred not to do where he have to build characters, and he preferred not to be called a book narrator. You know what I'm saying? But he's saying if anyone need his services, he will be. He'll facilitate those services if he had it. So I was able to get my book done through him, and he was professional along the way. He sent me stuff all the time. He had to send me stuff all the time pertaining to a lot of these names in here to make sure that the names was correct when he's reading these things. So Carter Johnson, he's from out of New Orleans. He's a music engineer. That's who narrated this book.
So as a publisher, beyond being a writer, as a publisher, how does it feel like in the future, going into next year, you're able to offer your client, the audio part now? At first, you can get a book for somebody, but you had to go over here to get an ebook. You had to go over there to get this. Now you can also offer all of these other services. How does that feel for you as a publisher?
Oh man, it feels great. I'm gonna go all the way next year, and what I mean by go all the way next year, I mentioned to you about the printing press. So I'm gonna get 2 printing presses. I'm gonna get another building out here on my land, and I'm gonna put those things in there. And uh, maybe by the end of 2025, hopefully, I'm doing the book narration and I'm doing the pressing of the books. That means I'm able to glue them, press them up, print them, and then ship them out myself without going through a third party to do all those types of things. So that's the goal. Because the
Y'all,
goal.
y'all hearing that in the chat?
Mm,
Anybody in the chat, if you're a writer or you know other writers, man, a lot of times for us, we're doing this whole process ourselves, front to back. Every part of the process besides literally putting it together. So
mm,
Kofi gonna have that press to be able to totally eliminate middleman altogether.
mm,
Get them out of the equation.
yeah,
That's a very, very powerful thing, bro.
yeah. Because I mean, I'm struggling with finding the bookstore. I wanted to do the coffee/bookstore, had a place, which them folks weren't trying to hear what I was trying to do. So even when I said I paid the lease up for a year, they weren't trying to hear it. So the money that I had for the building, I'm to lease the building, get the coffee machines and stuff in there, get it renovated, which I didn't have to do much because the place I had was already a book nook. It was a book nook store. So it was kind of already set up like a bookstore. So I'm just gonna bring, instead of doing that, I'm gonna start my black press out in my backyard back there in a building where I'll be able to press up. Um, everybody books that need to be printed up at a feasible price too. I'm gonna try to do it if it makes sense. I'll say if it makes sense, I'll be able to do it at a feasible price because even with the overhead of glue and ink and maintenance of the machines, it's expensive in itself. That's one reason why I never did touch it in the past because it just makes sense at one point in my life to go ahead and just do it and then go
Yeah,
through with
let
third
yeah
party.
let them do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I heard those machines be hitting, man. I've heard that from different people. They said the
Yep.
machines be hitting, so I already know that, right? So
Mhm.
speaking of keeping it in house, keeping it in the circle, man. For the forward in your book, and between us, every book that we do, we get separate for the forward, the afterword, the prologue, the introduction, everything that we've done together, we incorporate other people. We had D. Lewis in the last book, right? So tell me about the choice of having our sister Isata, aka Dear B, on Instagram, do the forward in this publication.
Yeah.
Tell
Shout
me
out.
about the choice to have this sister doing the forward in this book. A phenomenal
It
job, by the way.
it made sense. It made sense. I started sending you stuff. I wanted you to kind of be the beta reader. So you started reading. You said, man, you need to send this to Dear B.
Mhm.
So I reached out to Dear and she was like, yeah, sure. She was excited about it. So she read every chapter. There's 12 chapters in the book. She read every chapter, critiqued a few little things, told me to implement a few things. Um, so and just by us, by her sending me when she sent me the chapter back, if there was nothing, she would say it was all good. If it was something, not no errors, but she was like, well, you need to just expound a little bit more on this, give them a little bit more on this, you just give them because I want to know, so if I want to know, so other people want to know. So um and just through the process of me thinking, she's from Sierra Leone, she's from West Africa, she's understand the culture and the tradition, right? So it just made sense for me to ask her, would you be a part of? You already a beta reader, you already have read majority of the material before I even asked her, you know what I'm saying? So she accepted it and told me give her a week, man, and she slapped that thing together and sent it to me, man. I read it and I love it. She did exactly what I needed her to do to set up the book, man. So shout out to my sister Dear B. I'll be on her platform on Friday too.
Yes, yes, yes. She is amazing. She's brilliant. She's well studied. She's
Yeah.
incredibly smart, right?
All right.
But like you
Ooh.
saying, her having the background, her having the family lineage, her having the knowledge of all the culture, the history, the language. Like, of course, me being a beta reader, as your brother, as your homie, I don't want to go so far with it because I'm not well versed in this. I'm not well versed in this history and this background. So I can only give but so much feedback. But a
Mm-hmm.
person like that, she able to tell you like, nah, not this, that. She able to give you that right direction that you need when you're making a historical research project like this. You want it to
Mm-hmm.
be on point, and she was the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, she was. She was. No, cool, careless. I hadn't been to any pop-up shops at all this year. Have I in the past? Yes, I have in the past. Um, but last year, well, I ain't gonna say last year, this year I hadn't at all. I hadn't been to any pop-up shop. That's something definitely I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to do next year is try to pop up to a lot of different places. I was able to go a few places this year. Next year, I want to be able to pop up and go as many places as possible. Even with me going to place, I want to make this point. When I'm going to these places, and I know we talk about our face in a place, and it's important for our face to be in a place. But I'm gonna let people know right now when I'm networking, I'm not begging nobody for nothing. I'm not begging for your resources at all. I'm not coming to you. I don't want you to look at me as a beggar. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna let my talent speak for itself. I'm gonna let my resume speak for itself. So I'm gonna continue to build my resume up. You know what I'm saying? Because I want, and in essence, we want them to come to us. And I know we on the right track. We on the right path. So I'm gonna keep building my resume up. The people around me, gonna keep building their resume up, man, and we gonna turn this whole thing around. We gonna turn it upside down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I love going into the research of a project. I love asking any author on my show. One of my favorite questions is about the research process because understanding the process that went into something helped me enjoy it that much more as a reader, right? Tell us a little bit about what in the world goes into a project like this. Such a dense history, a dense backstory. It's a
Mhm.
lot of back and forth to wean through. It's a lot to get through, and condense it in a project like this.
Mhm.
It's not 500 pages. It's not, you know what I'm saying, 350. How do
Mhm.
you make it all that research and then condense it where it's digestible? Anybody could get it. Tell us about that process.
All right. Well, first, the book that we do that book is 166 pages. 166 pages. Um, and thank to you for the awareness last year. And I already knew about the attention span. We have a short attention span, right? So the reels and stuff like that, they 60 and 90 seconds. Everything now is microwave. Is you boom boom getting it. Even with commercials, growing up, we see the commercials ain't no more than a minute and a half, and they gone. They doing everything in this short period of time to try to reach whoever they trying to reach, right? So most of my books, if you look at even the books the Kofi Piesie research team did, some of the Mossy Warrior Clan members' books that they did, it's 300-400 page books. But now we have to be smarter when it comes to writing a book. So we have to condense the information because a lot of times with the books that we have written, it has intimidated people. I want people to read my book. I want a lot of people to read my book. So I know that a 300-400 page book, I know majority of the people is not going to read those books. So we have to figure out a way on how to condense it. We have to keep up. We have to get out of the traditional mindset, and we have to keep up with the times and pay attention to what's going on and adapt with the times,
Today.
right?
Yep. Today. Today.
So that was the purpose of that. And I come from a background of research. So I'm a part of the Seshuani Meta Nature group. You know what I'm saying? So we're into the Session Meta Nature, which is the Meta Nature. So I don't need an Egyptologist when you put a stele up there. I can read it up there. I can tell you if it's going from right to left, left to right, right to left horizontal, right to left vertical, right. And I can understand by these different determinatives I can determine what it is actually saying by these different pictograms, right? So, and then coming from Masi Warrior Clan, as a Masi Warrior Clan is a group, even if you look at the front of the book, it says Masi Warrior Clan presents, right? So I'm a part of a West African research group. I have been a part of that group since 2016, and we specialize in West African culture and tradition, language and linguistics and customs, right? So Uncle Job Saneb to you too, brother. Uh, I see you. uh, so um and coming from starting my own research team, Kofi Pichet research team, so I'm well versed in research. So paying attention online, I don't do all the arguing back and forth with people. That's not my steez. You got people that love to do those types of things. That's just not my personality. I'm not going to go back and forth with you on information, especially if it's misinformation, right? And a lot of times we speak out of turn, meaning that we speak about subject matters that we have no recollection of. We had not did intrinsic research on it. We don't understand the proper research methodologies. We don't understand what is a consensus, what the consensus. We don't understand conclusions and hypotheses, right? So so someone and I'm not gonna say the person name. I respect this brother. I don't respect some of the things that he do. So one of the persons I respect that been on my platform a couple of times, even he said some derogatory things about the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda, which was inaccurate because he don't have a level of understanding, and he doesn't like to read as much. he liked to Google. And Googling something for 30 minutes doesn't mean that you're versed in the subject matter. I'm gonna say that one more time. Googling something for 30 minutes does not mean that you're versed in a subject matter. So he was saying go ahead. You finna say something? Oh, so he was
I was co-signing.
okay. So he was inaccurate on some things that he was saying. And then about a week later, I seen another person say something about it, and they didn't give any context behind what happened. What they were saying was true about another African ethnic group genocide another African ethnic group, but they didn't give no context. Give me context. Give me an understanding on why two groups turn on each other and one group damn near genocide a whole ethnic group, right? So I took it amongst myself to do a presentation. So I did some more research on Rwanda, on the Hutus, the Tutsis, and the Twa, because we forget about the Twa. I answered it with a presentation. It's still up on my channel. You can go to it. I think it's called Divide and Conquer the Hutus and the Tutsi. And I run down through it real quick. And I have sources to back me up, right? And even in this book, it's about 6 or 7 pages of sources, right? 6 or 7 pages of source material that you can go back and verify for yourself, right? So it's sources throughout the entire book. There's even sources at the bottom of some of the things of people who I'm quoting, right? So it is sourced up, it is scholastically put together. So I answered in that way. And to be a scholar, most scholars, they don't go back and forth on social media bumping gums. They get it in scholastically, right? They get it in scholastically. So I put a presentation together. And what's so special about this project, I wasn't going to be honest, I wasn't going to even promote this book because I was working on another book, my first romance fiction book, The Journey of the Hearts, The Journey of the Hearts, the Kalawa love story. I couldn't work on the book because my ancestors were telling me, I'm not finna give you no kind of creative ideas on this book until you start. I ain't gonna say finish till you do the book, because on the presentation that I did, I mentioned that I may do a small book on this. Then I mentioned it again 2 years ago, but never did act on the idea. So now they say, well, you done all these other projects. Ain't no way in hell you finna not do this. We need you to do this project. So no matter how hard I try to work on this historical fiction book, romance historical fiction book, I couldn't do it. And once I said, okay, it kept drawing me back to Rwanda. So I started working on the book, and I started carving out every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday was my 3 days that I get in and I lock myself in my office. My wife can validate this, 24 hours at a time in my office writing. I get up in the morning times and write all the way up until the nighttime. I even, Sean can even verify this at times. I was letting him know, man, I'm finna start working and writing. So I had to go back and buy a few books. Even articles, even when we talk about articles, some of these articles that I talk about in the book, I had to pay for them. Every article that you get, every journal that you read is not free.
Now, wait a minute, Kofi. You are an independent writer, totally self-sufficient, self-functioning. You mean to tell me you had to go and buy books to make this book?
Yeah.
You had to go and buy articles to make this book?
Yep. Journals. Yeah.
I need readers to understand that. I need people that take our information and to understand what we put into it. So whenever you see us vending, and we say this is what the book costs, this is why it's what the book costs. You have no idea what it took to even create it.
Yep.
And we deserve to be compensated back on the other side. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you said what you said about those articles, man. Yes. You can't just go and find any article you want. Some articles have a paywall. You got to pay to get them.
Right? Yes, indeed. You have to pay to get them, right? So I wanted to get them because I needed access to certain information. Even certain information, like I have court records of Leon. Leon is an individual in there who helped excite the riot in the genocide by his hate speech that was recorded, who's now doing a life sentence in Rwanda. I have the court records. I had to pay for that. I had to pay for it. That's why I was able to expound on certain things and even give you some information when it comes to the speech. Even though the speech has been, they say, has been fabricated and stuff has been added. And I wouldn't know some of these things if I didn't pay for it. I had to pay for the information. I had to pay for it.
But Kofi, they always say knowledge is free.
Mm-hmm.
They always say knowledge don't cost nothing.
What they say?
They always said, why it's called pay attention, right? You got to pay for your attention, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you do. You got to pay. That's a fact.
So let's go to the tip. Yeah, let's go to the tippy top a little bit. Let's pull back a little bit. The Berlin Conference. Now, some of us here in the room might be well versed on Berlin Conference, but we can't assume that people that's gonna watch this in the future or whenever, and that they just know that. So give us a little, if you can, a little rundown on what in the world is the Berlin Conference, aka the Scramble for Africa. What is that?
The Berlin Conference was in 1864 to 1865. It lasted for 3 months. And this was something that Audubon put together, a German put together, in order to get all of the European powers together that was fighting against each other. The so-called European powers that was fighting against each other, right? So he formulated a meeting where all of these so-called European powers would get together and they would talk about the scrambling of Africa, right? They coming together and figuring out who gonna get what part of Africa, right? They finna carve Africa in half, right? And go into Africa to rape it of its natural resources, because Africa sustains majority of the world. Most of its natural resources, what are they doing? They are exporting out of that region into other different places, right?
As they say, Kofi, to this day.
Yes, to this day. Right, to this day. Right. So these European powers, even the United States, you had France, you had the Dutch, you had British, you had Portugal, you had Spain, you had Germany, you had Belgium, you had Hungary, you had the United States, amongst other people. There was 14 supposedly European powers at this meeting at the Berlin Conference to discuss.
So cool.
Go ahead.
Whenever we want reparations and we want our wrongs corrected, all these nations, they try to say, we ain't had nothing to do with that. That was them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that wasn't us. That was them. We ain't do nothing about that. You mean all these nations was involved in this Berlin Conference?
Yes, all these nations was involved, and they was warring against each other. But they had enough sense that, hey, look, if we come together, we can accomplish all of this together and separately for our own nations, right? So, what you say? So there's African representative. What you say? Hold up now. So where are the African? What? No African representative?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
It's not one.
Not one. Not one.
Not one. So I had to start that chapter off as chapter 1 so people can go. So now I got to give context. I'm going to walk you through what happened, what actually happened in 1994, how it actually happened, right? So I got to walk you through how these people, these European powers, ended up in Africa in the first place, right? Because when you get to Rwanda, you see Rwanda, you had the Germany that was in there, which was rewarded to them during the Berlin Conference. The Berlin Conference, Germany got Rwanda. They went into Rwanda. And then after World War II, the United Nations gave it to the Belgium. And this is when hell really jumped off, when the Belgians got into Rwanda. But we'll talk about that. I guess we'll talk about that soon. But I had to set it up so you can understand how these people actually got into Africa in this place and carved it up and separated Africa into 50 or 53 or 54 states, right?
So prior to this conference, prior to that, like the map we see now of Africa and the way you see the different, like you said, in the states and how it's divided up, if you will, that's not the original format. That's
Nope.
not the original as
Nope.
it was before.
Nope.
This is all fabricated, man-made lines of demarcation, right?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when you're looking at a map today, that is not an accurate map of how Africa was, right? You know, so it is imaginary lines. There are people who, when they drew these imaginary lines, you might have had the Fulani and the Fulani, some people that was now a part, maybe a part of the Hamhara tribe, but now because they are split it in half now. So now these two ethnic groups may have become one because now they have carved up a section of area where these people were, man. So I had to establish the Berlin Conference to give them an understanding first, and then go into the next step was go into the psychology of the Europeans.
Yes, yes. Give it to us. Give it to us.
Okay, so the second chapter is called the Hermetic hypotheses or the Hermetic myths, right? So, and the so I want to go inside the head of this and get you to understand the psychology of the European, right? So Ham in this chapter, I talk about how the Hermetic hypotheses is inaccurate. The Hermetic hypotheses is false. The Hermetic hypotheses is pseudoscience, right? So those who are biblical, those who follow the Bible, we know that there was a story of Moses, and Moses had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? Shem had the Jewish nation, Japheth was over the Gentiles or the Europeans, and then Ham, the black nation, right? This is how it was formulated. It said that Shem was the oldest, Japheth, but we know through historical record, do we know through science that the oldest people that exist on the planet is black people. I don't have to tell you to believe and have faith. This is a historical fact through science that we've been here longer than anybody else on the planet. I don't have to tell you to believe it. We can prove it over. It has been proven over and over and over and over. So we know Ham, that's a mistake right there in the Bible, that Ham was the youngest son. Now going to the Hamitic hypotheses, when you get to the racist ethnographic, the people who study people, individual people, customs and culture, and these racist historians and theologians, religious theologians, they formulated this hypothesis that the Ham, which when you look in the Hebrew, it says Ham, Shem, or Cam means hot. If you go to, you can pull up I use things from the blue letter Bible. And in the blue letter Bible, you can pull up, because you have to, first you have to understand, okay, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew and Aramaic. So for me to get the original context, I have to go to the original language, because again, I state DNA is the language of the culture. DNA is the language of the culture. So in Hebrew, the Torah was written in Hebrew and Aramaic. So in Hebrew, Shem, Ham, Akam means hot. And it's hot because those people was on a continent that was closer to the equator of the sun, which they began to have this certain type of melanin to protect them from the UV rays of the sun, right? So we know that that was a mistake. That's an error that I pointed out right there in the book. So it was false. It was a false narrative now that they painted that Ham is no longer black. He's white. So all of the advancements that these people seen when they came to Africa, they credited to white people and not to Africans that was there on the continent. So now Ham has become white. And now Ham children is cursed by Moses when Ham walks in and see after they get off the ark. Ham sees his son, Moses see his father, Ham see his father Moses' nakedness. So when he awakened after Shem and Japheth covers him up, Moses curses Ham and said that his descendants will be cursed. They will be ugly, black, big nose, big lips, elongated genitals, and kinky hair, right? So now Ham is white and his progenitors will become cursed black people. This is what but this come way later. This black people. So this is what they use, this narrative, this Hermetic hypotheses to use that white people advanced Africa and Hamites were white people, and then his sons put Mizraim, which is Egypt, Cush, which is Ethiopia, will be black-skinned people. And we'll get into that, how they use that Hermetic hypotheses when they get to Rwanda, because this is something that they used, and then this was like a division, because one of the chapters I talk about divide and conquer. So divide and conquer is one of the tactics. Go ahead.
No. You saying it because we there now. The next question was about, let's talk about the divide and conquer tactic. This has been used for so long, for time memorial, and it's still being used to this day once again.
Yes, it
it's
is.
always been used.
Yes,
For those that don't know, tell us about the divide and conquer tactic, the art of war, right?
So they used divide and conquer tactics. These are war tactics that the Europeans has used. They has used it through exploitation, manipulation, and through violence, right? So I'll give you an example of some. They would use a divide and conquer tactic of lying. So if I was a part of let's say I was a part of I'm trying to give one that's together. Let me see if I can use, let's just say I use the Hamhara and I use the people in Togo. I use the Hassa people. I use these two. The European will go tell the Hassa lies about the Hamhara people. Then they would arm the Hassa people after they done worked up the Hassa people that the Hamhara people was plotting against them to kill them or do certain things. So they weaponized the other people after they lied to them to get them to fight. So now you got one. We know one gonna be more dominant because now it does not have the permanent. It has new technology. They have guns, the gunpowder, so they armored them with them. Then you have another method of trade. A lot of times before all of this happened, we have to understand in the United States, they started having factories, right? You started seeing factories. So now they have to have products to go inside of these factories and stuff. So they have to have these resources. Where majority of the resources come from? Africa. So they tried to send people into Africa for trade. So certain places they would go in, they would try to trade with them certain things. So now what they would do, they would utilize certain people and say, we're going to give you this if you can capture your enemy and give them to them, because it's something different between slavery and indentured servitude. We get the two mixed up all the time. We say, well, Africans enslaved other Africans. Yes, they had indentured servitude. Where if one thing, like I said in the book, I don't sensationalize Africa. I love Africa to death, but I don't sensationalize it at all. But I'm reasonable and I understand things. I fight with my brother. I fight with my mother. I fight with my dad. I fight with my wife. I fight with my kids. It's no different than them fighting with their own kinsmen. So what happened in indentured servitude, they would get these people, but these people wasn't fed slop. They wasn't beat. They wasn't raped. They had a job. They had to work. And once they worked off their debt, they was able to leave and go back home, but they wasn't whipped. They wasn't beat. They wasn't phased, and they was able to marry anyone inside of the society if they wanted to and roam free. And once they worked off their debt, they could either integrate into the society and stay or go back home. It was nothing of this slavery that the Europeans and even the Arabs had, where the Europeans took it to another level. Arabs started off with the Barber Coast and Sahara Coast slave trade. Then we get into the Atlantic slave trade later on, right? So, so they use these different tactics, you know what I'm saying, to divide and conquer. Even when they carved up Africa, that was a divide and conquer strategy, because some people, when they made them imaginary marcation lines, they were no longer able to go back on this side. They had to go over here with people they might have already been feuding and warring with, right? So it's so many different ways, you know what I'm saying, convert or die. That was another tactic, convert or die. So there were many different divide and conquer tactics, and even the Hermetic hypotheses was a divide and conquer tactic.
I love to always bring this thing full circle to current, make it make sense, right? Because some people are only concerned with what happened over here in the U.S. or what's happening in today's time. They're not concerned with thousands of miles away in the past, right? So we thought divide and conquer with the Black Panther Party. The government did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We see it between the Crips and the Blood.
Mm-hmm.
We see it between the Tupac, Biggie Smalls thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so many folks years later come by and they said, whoa, we had no actual beef with them.
Mm-hmm.
But certain things were manipulated to give us a certain kind of energy toward them, and then X, Y, and Z happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or they're feeding us certain information, they're feeding us certain lies back to lies.
Mm-hmm.
And in real time going through it, you can't really decipher the fake from the real, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I speak all the time about meeting Geronimo Pratt, right? What I don't normally talk about is I asked Geronimo Pratt about certain people in the Black Panther Party. He was highly pissed off and upset because he felt like they were possible informants.
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain point, they couldn't distinguish who is my brother or my sister versus who is the opposition. Because the government did it so good, they couldn't even tell. COINTELPRO. Good job, Dr. Wade.
Yep, COINTELPRO.
We see this thing happening over and over again. And unfortunately, a lot of times in the community, we fall for it time and time again. Go on the left, right? Hook, line, sinker, fall for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. And, and the Hermetic hypotheses were one, because now when you get to Rwanda, they give the Tutsis privileges because they come from, they say, a Cushitic stock, right? And again, going back to the biblical narrative, Ham had a son named Cush, or Ethiopia, right? So they saying that they were progenitors of, or they come from the lineage of Ham, this made up white Hamitic nation, right? So now they favor the Tutsi, which was the Hutus was 85% of Rwanda. The Tutsis was 15%, and the Twas, who've been there longer than any one of them, was only 1% who stayed off in the forest, right? So they use this as the Tutsis being from this stock of white Hametics, that they were civilized and they was intelligent. So they gave them certain privileges, education. They put them in power. You know what I'm saying? They gave them money. They did so many things that now, when before the Belgium did this and create these identity cards, they was all one people. Now you have divided them up and gave one special privileges and treat the other one like dirt. So now, over the years, the Hutus began to have jealousy and envy and hate for the Tutsis, because the colonization of the Belgium, who formulated or who used this Hamitic hypotheses as the Tutsis being more civilized and intelligent. But this wasn't the only place. Uganda was the same place with the British. I talk about the president who is now in there, who's been there for 24 years, who started the RPF, right? Who came in and fought and got the Tutsis back in there after the Civil War, etc. His family fled when he was 2 years old and went into Uganda. And it was the same instance where you had the British ruling, giving the South more privileges than the North. Said the people in the North, they wanted to fight back. They were like, who is y'all? Y'all not finna come and tell me and rape my natural resources. You not finna set up a government when we already established our morals, ethics, and principles. Who are you? So they fighting back. So now you want to say the Achache is uncivilized. They not intelligent. So now you favoring the South and giving the South all this types of power. Now you causing another division between the two. This was happening while Paul Gami was a youth in there when his family fled from the same thing that was going on over there with the Belgians, with this Hamitic hypothesis of one group being descendants from this fake Hamitic white nation.
Wow. Wow. So in the book, you gave some characteristics of the Hutu and the Tutsi. Like, well, you know, some of them were more pastoral with agriculture and things of that nature, and the other group had this. Bring some of that down for the audience, the difference in these two groups as far as their characteristics and things of that nature.
So the Hutus, I talk about in there. So I give you two perspectives, right? So I give you a perspective from a white European professional professor, and I give you professional a professor from Central Africa. Same perspective and other different scholars when we talk about consensus, right? When you understand what is the popular consensus. A popular consensus is when two scholastic groups get together who are on the opposing side of each other. One has this opposing, one has this side, one has this side, and is opposed to each other. But the popular consensus is when this side over here has more accurate data and have collected more information, accurate information on this side. So now it becomes more popular. So it's relevant because it has been research story, has not been, you know, because a lot of us can go into research bias. So that's the popular consensus. So these people on both sides said that the Rwandans, the Tutsis, the Hutus, and the Twa were all one people before the Belgian, before the Berlin Conference, before Germany and the Belgium got in there, right? So they was, and these were titles. The Tutsis was pastoralists. They deal with cows and stuff like that, right? And then the Hutus was agriculturalists. They deal with farming, you know what I'm saying, cultivating the land. Then you had the Twa, because I don't want to leave the Twa out there, because that's why I put the bonus chapter in about the Twa who was there before them. They were forest dwellers. They was hunter-gatherers. They specialized in hunting their food, gathering their food, and preparing natural herbs for medicine because they was one with the forest. They was the protectors over the forest, right? So that is the distinction between those three ethnic groups, the Twa, Hutus, and the Tutsis.
In the book, Kofi, on page 117, you break down, and I love this in your book, you always break down terms, definitions, you break it down to us to where, again, a person that's not really well versed in these things, they can pick it up and they can learn, right? Tell us what is a genocide, Kofi? Because in today's time, it's a lot of things going on right now around the world. It's a lot of war. You see on CNN and other places talking about genocide. I see on your timeline. Help folks understand what that word actually really is, genocide.
Okay, so I break that word down and I tell you the word. I'm when you're doing research, I love to understand. I can be reading something and then one word to jump out there, man, and I'll stop reading that book and that one word to take me down a rabbit hole. I might lose time from reading, fooling with this one word, right? So I'm into the word. I'm into the etymology of the word, the origin of the word, on the word existed, who created the word. So when I looked up the word and went into the etymology of the word, and genos, which means family, it means clan, it means tribe, it means family, it means society, right? And side means killing, right? So me going into that word took me down who actually this word, you know, the word originated from. I can't remember the guy name. It was
His name is Raphael. Like
Yeah,
Raphael Lemkin. This is
yes,
1944.
yes, he was a
A
Jewish,
Polish
Jewish.
Jewish lawyer.
Yes, yes, that's a Polish Jewish lawyer, right? You can kind of say in that phrase, that essence, that he coined that word genocide. So so I talk about and I break down what is a genocide in simple terms. So he talked about on page 17. So I said number one is killing members of groups. Two, causing severe bodily or mentally harm to members of the group. Three, deliberating, inflicting on groups conditions of life, calculating to bring about in physical destructions in a whole or in part. Four, imposing measures intent to prevent birth within the group. Five, forcible transferring children of the group into another group. So these are all encompassed up under genocide. And these are all the things that happen, not just in Rwanda. These things are not just, and we talk about the Holocaust with the Jews. This thing has happened everywhere, right? Everywhere.
And of course, again, for those of us that feel like, man, I'm in the U.S., I'm a black person here, I wasn't there back then, I didn't deal with all that. We had our own genocide, correct? We had our own genocide situation going on with us, with the slave trade that we should all know about, right?
Yep. We should know. We should, and not
So
only know
it's
this,
all relevant. It's all relevant.
yes, it's all relevant. It's all because there is and I'm getting more back comfortable. And one thing, I'm not gonna compromise who I am, but I will tone it down a little bit. I'm a Pan-Africanist till the day I die. I'm a black nationalist till the day I
Hey,
die.
Kofi, on the Tone P experience, man, go with your move, man.
Yeah.
go with your move.
So so there's a word called Sankofa. Sankofa. And my ancestry goes back to Ghana, right? So Sankofa is one of the Ghanese words that they use, that we must go back in the past, you know what I'm saying, and retrieve what happened in the past in order to move forward. Meaning that we got to go back and study the past. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to make the same mistakes that our ancestors made, right? But not only going back to the past, but drawing from our ancestors' greatness, because we've been taught that they made no major contributions to the world, right? So when you go and you study one of the oldest empires that's ever existed, that still exists, that y'all call Kemet, but we know as what those people say as Kemet or Timeri. Those people were called the Remich or the Kemetu. The Bible says Egyptians. We know that that word came way later from the Greek, the French, from the Greek and the French, Egyptos, Egypti to English language, Egypt. Those people never called themselves Egyptians. That place was never a place of bondage, right? So those people called themselves the Remich or the Kemetu. And Kemet, or Egypt, as y'all will state, is one of the longest reigning African empires to ever exist, 5,000 years. So this is where a majority of your Greeks and your Romans and your Turks and your Arabs would come to study at this place in Egypt, right? Because it was the Mecca center of education. It was the Mecca
Kofi,
center of education. Go ahead.
study at the feet of the masters, man.
Yes.
Study at
Yes.
the feet of our masters, bro.
Yes. But we've been taught that we're not smart. We've been taught that we illiterate. And some of these things, when we talk about the Khufu, Khafu, and Menkaure, the step pyramid, Imhotep, who was a Vija, who was a multi-genius. We talk about Hekapata, which is now Memphis, Egypt, where they got that. These things, they draw from this place. They draw from these black Africans that civilized, because they say we not civilized. They say black folks ain't civilized. But in order to be civilized, hence the word civilization, how can we be able to create great civilizations if we weren't civilized? Right? So, it's important, man, that we understand who we are. So we have to Sankofa. We have to go back. That's what gave me the inspiration and the power in the drive to try to strive for greatness, to try to stand on their shoulders, because they said they want us to stand on their shoulders and move forward farther than they move forward, right? So it's our duty to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, right, and take their works and move forward into this 21st century.
So you broke down beautifully the definition of a genocide, what that entails, what that looks like. Between these two groups, how did this big, huge conflict like kick off? What was the spark? What was the ignition of this whole situation?
Like I said, okay, when Germany, after the Belgian company, the Belgian conference, this conference was to divide up Africa, to carve up Africa, the scrambling of Africa. So Germany, through this conference, Germany was awarded Rwanda and other African countries, right, in East Africa. So they got Rwanda. So after the World War I, the United Nations again gave Belgium the Rwanda, right? So they come in with this ideal of, again, that the Tutsis are from Hamitic stock, because some of them said that they come from the Great Lake regions, right? And so many people have so many different things of where they come from. But the Great Lake regions, you have Tanzania, you have Uganda, you have Rwanda, you have Burundi, you have the Republican of the Congo, you have Ethiopia, right? So they said that they come from Ethiopia, which Ethiopia is Kush, right? So we knew, just drawing back now from their made-up Hamitic hypotheses, that Ham had sons. He had Mizraim, he had Put. I think Put is Somalia, Mizraim is Egypt, and Kush is Ethiopia, right? So they come from descendants of Ham. So these people, the Tutsis, in the minds of the Belgium, that they are more sophisticated than the Hutus. They are more intelligent than the Hutus. They are more civilized than the Hutus. So they started awarding them all of these privileges. And again, even with them having stock, we talking about cattle. Even when we go back to Africa traditions, awarding a dowry. Awarding a dowry is when I'm having to award, the family has to award a dowry to the woman's family. So a lot of it would be cattle. So if you had cattle, you was rich. If I had a bunch of cattle, dog, I was rich, right? So again, the Tutsis was pastoralists. And that's what they did. They had multiple cattle, right? So if you had more than 4 or 5 cattle, you was considered rich. So they looked at that also as well. So they started giving them these privileges, educating them more on certain things, giving them power over or dominion over the Hutus and the Twa people, even though the Twa people didn't really have too much to do because they were forest dwellers. They stayed in the forest, right? Even if you go to Africa today, the Bamutu and those, they are not like city people. They are in the forest, right? So through this, it caused jealousy, envy, and hatred. So after so long, 1950, the Hutus started to fight back in the 50s. And they wanted to gain their independence over Belgium. 1959, they gained their independence. Well, 1962, they was awarded. But 1952, they kicked it into gear. So the Belgium dropped the privileges from the Tutsis in 1959. So already over those years, that span of years of them being privileged with this and that and having authority over the Hutus, developed this hatred and envy. Now that the privileges is taken away and the Belgium has fell back before they give them the independence, the Houthis, that hatred, jealousy, envy, and then what comes after that, right? They trying to destroy, they trying to kill something. So they end up started killing some of the Tutsis in 1959, and they ran into Bermuda, and they ran into Uganda, and they ran into the Congo. You had 200,000 people go into Uganda. The president today, when this happened, he was 2 years old, Paul Montgomery. That's where his people went into Uganda when this happened in 1959. He was 2 years old. So after this happened, 1962, they was awarded their independence. So now it's no longer Tutsis in control. It's the Hutus in control. And everything about the Tutsis, they hate. They running them up out of there. So you had people fleeing because they were scared of getting killed, but it was one people. So you had the Tutsis that was marrying the Hutu. They was entering because they was to consider themselves all one people until the colonizers got in there and divided and conquered and then gave them these cards. These cards was to distinguish the two, Hutus and Tutsis. So when it's just like a driver license, you swap it out, it's telling you was born in Rwanda. Your age is such and such. You was a Hutu. Your ethnicity is Hutu. Your ethnicity is Tutsi, right? I even
sure, trying to make the identification, trying to distinguish like their phenotype and their head
right.
dimension, head measurements and all this kind of wild stuff, man.
Yes. So they
Once
start
again, stuff that we've seen in other parts of the world too, not just this particular one. I gotta keep on saying that over and over within this book.
Yes.
For those that feel disconnected, this happened time and time again with us.
Yes, with us. So with those identification cards, that also caused divisions now because you got one person, one status is better than the other status. But 1962, Gregorian became the president. He was a Hutu. So they was kicking ass. They were kicking up dust. They was kicking up there. Yeah, right there. That's Javal and Paul Montgomery. So they started kicking up dust. And then they started creating their own the Power Hutu parliament. You know what I'm saying? Hutus parliament, etc. movement, so forth and so forth. So they began to rule over. This was in 1962. So in Africa, they have something called coups. And it's all through, and I talk about that, and I give you a list of coups that happen. And most of the times when the coup take place, it's the military taking over. And it's because of certain people, these politicians that were put in positions become corrupted or don't do what they say. We need to do that here. Start putting their ass up under the fire. So these coups took place. So Gregorian cousin, who moved up in the military rank and became the general, his own cousin caused a coup against him and had his whole administration killed, and then bribed the family and gave them money to keep quiet, and then took Gregorian, the first Hutu president, official president, in 1962 after they gained their independence, locked them away and starved them to death. That is both the cousin, and that's crazy, the cousin Gregorian on the right, Juvenal, I know I'm turning his name up, on the left. He became higher ranking and became a general. So he caused the coup on them, and then he became the president. But he was also a Hutu. And he created something called the Aguza. And the Aguza became these extremist Hutu. And they took on the ideology, because that's all it is, the ideology of the Hermetic hypotheses. So they started talking about Hutu power, that they are more intellectual, they are more smarter, right? They are more civilized than the Tutsis. And they have to eradicate the Tutsis for the Tutsis come back and take over. So from 1962, and then you had, I think 1974, 1973, somewhere around there, the coup took place and Juneval became the president, who was also a Hutu. So at this time, you had Uganda. Remember, you had 250 that went to Bermuda. You had 200,000 that went to Uganda. So there was something going on in Uganda with arming in the same place when I'm telling you about the South and the North. And one ethnic group fighting against the British saying, hell no, y'all ain't coming in here. Y'all ain't taking ish. So they fighting back. So now you're privileging the people in the South over the North. So now there's a war that's taking place. So now you have something that was created called the Renew. And Renew is a thing that was put together by Paul Montgomery and his best friend that he met when his family got there when he was 2 years old. So they did that, and then later on, they established the RPF. You know what I'm saying? The Rwanda Front Patriotic, right? So they developed that, and through that they did teaching. So if you was involved in this, they taught the old way that Rwanda, the Tutsis, the Hutus, and the Twa were one people. We are one people. In order for this to move forward, we have to get the moderate. So you had extreme Hutus, and then you had moderate Hutus. The moderate Hutus were the one was like, that's not right. That's not right. Killing our own people. We have children with these people, right? It's not right. Those were the moderate people. They wasn't against that. So I want to establish that all Hutus was not against the Tutsi people. So you had the extreme Hutus and you had the moderate Hutus, right? So now they said in order for it to work, we have to establish and we have to get the modern Hutus on board. This don't need to be a movement for just the Tutsi. It need to be a movement with the Hutus. So they start establishing and giving them some of the modern Hutus role in order for it to be successful. So in 1990, we were up to 1990. Now the Civil War has popped off. And Paul Kagame, who is the president today, who's been there ever since that they won against the Hutus in 1994. 1990, the Civil War broke off. They went in and fought 91, 92, 93. So now they tired of the bloodshed. So now Javal has to sign a peace treaty. The Akuzum Treaty Treaty in Akuzum, Tanzania is where they at when they signed the treaty. To now because the movement was put together to establish the Tutsis to return home to their homeland. This was reason why they went in and fought in the Civil War so they can come back home. So now that's what the treaty was about. Now the Tutsis are able to come back home. So now when they come back home, these people ain't with it. The extreme Hutus, they ain't with this. They not with this. So they formulated a younger group that will be instrumental when 1945. I'm talking about young boys. I'm talking about with heavy artillery, right? So when they get there, so now you having people to reintegrate back into Rwanda. These people weren't winning. So now you have Leon, who did this speech, and he kept calling them people certain things. And I gave you what the name was when I translated the name. He was calling the Tutsis cockroaches through the whole speech. You cockroaches. And he excited, they say he excited the genocide because he said go ahead.
I don't want to cut your knowledge, as they say, but it was my next question though. Anyway, so you're naturally going where I wanted to go, right? So on page 102, we're going into the speech. Do not let yourselves be invaded, right?
Yes.
Do not let yourselves be invaded. So
Yes.
I'm highlighting this because, again, bringing it full circle. We see, for example, here in the U.S., Donald Trump always uses certain speech.
Yes.
He says certain things that they say they inflame certain people. They embolden certain people.
Yeah, we seen that when they stormed the White House. We seen that when they stormed the White House, remember?
Yeah,
we seen that. We seen that. His
So,
rhetoric, his speech, his actions,
I want
to
highlight the power of words, the power of speech, the power of writing, because some people might say, man, he's just talking. Man, that's just words. And he's able to say, man, my hands are clean. I didn't do this. I didn't directly tell them X, Y, Z, but you dog whistling, as they call it, dog whistle.
Yeah.
You implying certain things that cause a chain reaction, right? So speak about the power of that in this story, how that went with that.
So this is how they will practice certain things, right? This is how they will get the reaction, whether it be a yes or no, you know what I'm saying? The people is forward, the people is not. So they would have these establishments, they come, they will have a relaxing, you dancing, you drinking, you know, you having a good time, you fellowshipping, and at the same time, while you getting comfortable, now they're practicing on you with these rhetorics and, you know, and trying to, go ahead.
Kofi, that's scary, bro. So the brother Achilles, Books of Pop Culture. We was talking for the past 2 days about the power of music, the power of words in music, right? You
Mhm.
said you dancing, you drinking, you doing whatever, getting inebriated, and
Mhm.
certain things are going into your subconscious
Yes,
mind.
being
Certain things are
programmed.
being, I want to say the word, suggested to you
Yeah. Mhm.
on the
Yeah, it's being
slip.
yeah, it's being
And you
programmed.
you
Mhm.
getting programmed, you getting charged up, right?
Yep. Oh, yep, exactly.
Same type tactics, same type of stuff, bro. We see it.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
they said, show him. You read all that history stuff. You read all that old stuff. That's a long time ago. That's not relevant. We see all this stuff in our face every day on our
Mhm.
timeline.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's the same. They don't. It's my show. I'm gonna say what I want to say. They don't change their plays, bro.
No. But
Imagine,
again,
imagine a football game and your favorite team. They are doing the same play against your team over and over, and
right,
your team is steady falling for it.
because they ain't studied the play. They ain't
They
studied. They
they
hadn't went back
scoring,
and studied.
they
Right.
scoring,
Right.
scoring,
Yeah.
scoring.
Yep.
You losing and
Yep.
wondering why.
Yes.
They ain't
Yes.
trying to fake it. They ain't trying to disguise it. We're doing the same play and y'all keep doing about it.
Yes. That's a
That's what's
fact.
happening.
That's a fact. That's a
Go ahead
fact.
with it.
I like that. I like how you did that, man. But what shoot, I done forgot when you said that. Now what
No,
we
no,
were
no.
talking.
I was talking about the brother's speech he gave,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
like how much that speech reverberated. I believe they was like putting it up. They was putting it
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. The radio,
Certain
yeah,
press.
RTML is owned by one of the administrators who was a part of the Akuzum, which was a part of the president Juvenile who staged the coup on his cousin, the first president Gregorian. So he funded that radio station. So that radio station put out propaganda throughout the ways on the radio station about the Tutsi. It also amplified it. The speech that Leon recorded and calling them cockroaches and telling them we do not need to let them come back and invade. We need to cut their throats before they come and cut our throats, right? So all of this rhetoric that he did, it was even after he left, it was recorded, it was broadcasted across these radio stations, right? And they amplified this thing. That's why when he fled and he went back to Canada, he's from Rwanda, but he went and studied at a university in Rwanda. I mean, in Canada. So him and his family was hidden out by the military, by Javal's military, for a few weeks, and then they got him out of the country and he went back into Canada, and Canada accepted him, and then he went back to the very school that he went to, and he taught there at that school for a while until they found out where he was, and they tried to deport him back after the 1994 genocide popped off for inciting the genocide through his hate speech and it being played over and over and over.
So he can say something as simple as they are cockroaches or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we see a certain person say they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cat.
Mhm.
And it sounds elementary, it sounds like second grade playground talk, but we see the power of suggesting to certain people, they get so gassed up, charged up off of this kind of talk, this kind of speech, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And so once so going back to now from 1993, the treaty was the past, they coming in, they going into 1994. So now they are upset. The extremists is upset with the president. So now the president is going into Bermuda because even the president, even with the treaty, he's still slow as enforcing them all the way back to integrate and them not being harmed. You know what I'm saying? Them being welcomed back. He was slow with that. So that's what was happening when they went and they had this meeting. So now the proper opportunity was that the Hutus, the extremist Hutus, now we have to do something very extreme to stop this whole treaty thing. So while they over there in the meeting, you got the president in Bermuda, you got the president in Rwanda. Now, after the meeting was over with, Junaval had a jet, and the president in Burundi had a propeller plane. He said, "Nah, I ain't taking that propeller plane back. Can I fly back with you?" So they shoot the plane down and they blame it on the RPF, Paul Montgomery and the movement, the RPF, and blame it on them. Now, okay, they did it. We let these people come back in. They just shot our president jet down with the president from Bermuda in there. It's up and it's stuck. That's what they were feeling. It's up and it's stuck. So now, boy, they got to killing people by the tons. They killed from 1800 to almost 1 million Tutsis. But not only the Tutsis were getting killed now in 1994, you had some of the moderate Hutus, because they was a part of the RPF, because they didn't want none of this stuff to happen. They didn't want none of this to go down in the first place. But over 800 to 1,000, that's why they call it a genocide. And then they started raping the women. They had the children, the Hutu children, to post up roadblocks. Where's your identification card? So when you popped out that identification card and it said Tutsi, they massacring you, they killing you. You right there. They killing you right there. That was another tactic they used, was setting these roadblocks up and asking for your identification card. Because you had to remember, the Belgian divided them and told them they had to have identification cards. You is a Hutu, you is a Tutsi. The Tutsi is better than you, blase, blase. So that was another tactic that the extreme Hutus used, and putting up these young boys who was very instrumental in the genocide of the Tutsi. So they was killing mamas, they was killing babies, they was killing aunties, grandma, cousins, niece. They was killing. If you were Tutsi, they was laying you down. So at the end of 1994, the RPF ended up defeating them, and Paul Montgomery ended up becoming the president over Rwanda, and he's been there from 1994 to 2005. They just had an election, and I put that in the book too, because I was dope. It was crazy. I was writing about it, writing his chapter. I got a whole chapter on Paul Montgomery in the book. And as I was writing the chapter, and I got to looking at something, it was like Rwanda having an election. So he won an election by a landslide. So he's been in office from 1994 to 2025, and he have changed the thing because they only had 2 terms. He had it changed, so now he's probably able to be in office until 2034.
Yes. So once again, you have masterfully walked through this thing. Every question I had, you pretty much lead into it. So I was coming around to the backside of it. Tell us about the president and his role in getting everything, I want to say, back on track, if you will, trying to get it back on a good direction, if you will. Talk about his influence on that.
Okay, Paul Montgomery, like I said, he was one of the founders of the RPF, along with his best friend. His best friend got killed when Paul Montgomery came to a military college in Kansas. He came to Kansas. So while the Civil War was jumping off in the 1990s with the RPF and the Rwanda government or military, he was in the United States. So when his friend died, he came back to Rwanda immediately, and he took over the RPF and led the Civil War until them getting the treaty. So now, after fast forwarding 1994, after genocide, they was able to get the government stabilized and defeat the Hutus, right? He become president, and now he tries to shape and mold Rwanda back into the place it is. And they have a saying now called all Rwandan. They don't consider themselves as Tutsi and Hutu. So you won't see them saying, I'm a Tutsi, I'm a Hutu, I'm a Rwandan. So he got them back. And remember, when him and his best friend started the RPF, they started teaching the true history before the colonizers got into Rwanda, that they was all one people. And if they were called these different things, it was a and not an ethnicity, because they all spoke the same language, had the same customs and traditions, because they've been there all together for a long period of time. So they was one people until Germany and Belgium came in and divided them up with these different tactics and these privileges that they rewarded one ethnic group over the other, right? So he's been working to reshape Rwanda back into the place that it has come. And then in the last chapter, I actually was finished after chapter 11. I think it was all hell broke loose, for no, the divide and conquer. So I said, I need to finish this book up with some current things that happen. I mean, that's going on in Rwanda. How is the state of Rwanda in 2024? So in 2023, I came across a British online magazine, The Guardian, and they give you had this French photographer who went in January of 2023, went into Rwanda, and he took a bunch of pictures. He wanted to take a bunch of pictures and talk to the youth of Rwanda and asked them about the state of Rwanda and the Rwandans over there. So he took a bunch of pictures. So I put a bunch of pictures, their names. Some of them were students, some of them was teachers, some of them had various skill sets. And yeah, and so they talk about how he turned Rwanda around, and each one of them speak in high regards of Paul McGaw and how he turned Rwanda around, and how they look at each other as one people, and how he was able to get one people to to embrace another group of people who murdered and genocide their mothers and their grandmothers and their brothers and their sisters and their children. So he turned it around. But there are some other things that is going on with him that I briefly just mentioned in there, but I didn't want to mention in there. And it may be a part two, because there are things I talked to. I tried my best to get. I talked to a Hutu. He's a Hutu, and I talked to him over the phone. And he has a book. We were supposed to before this jumped off Sunday night I supposed to had interviewed him. He's supposed to have my book. He's supposed to went through my book. We were supposed to discuss my book, his book, because he's a delegate. He go and travel all over East Africa to talk about the plights of what's going on over there, even in Rwanda. He shared some things with me that I had no clue about Paul McGone, but I even talk about it in my book, because I seen a few things where they said he kind of ruled with fear over there. A lot of people kind of feared him over there. It's some things that's going on in the Congo right now that he has his hand in, that the brother talked to me about that I wasn't up on. So there's some things that people don't like about what's going on with him. And then there's a lot of people that like what's going on with him. Rwanda is heavily surveillance. There's cameras everywhere. You can't get past. It's a lot of stuff that I didn't talk about in this book. So it may be a part two of
Wow.
this book.
So a
So
follow-up book.
yeah,
That'd be great. And I love this for you too. But almost every book that you do, you are very good at contacting people,
yeah.
direct on the ground. For your African hair book, you did a good job of researching the African hair book. You see, it's easy. Somebody, once again, you can go on Google and Google something right quick, and then cite it, and that's cool. But to actually talk to people that over there living it, that's their life, or they've been through it, or the people been through it. That's a whole different kind of investigative work. And I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
you always doing that kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And I wish I was able to get the brother. He stays in Nashville, but he's from there. He's been in Nashville a long time, but he travels back and forth. And I tried to make it work, and he agreed to doing it. But when I contacted him again, I gave him the date. He was like, he was cool with the date, and he'll be back. But so I don't know if he's still out of the country, because he's back and forth. So I reached out a couple of times. I ain't get nothing back. So I'm just chalking it up right now to maybe he's still out of the country, because that's what he does. He goes and he sits on these panels, and he talks about the state of East Africa. He talks about the state of his homeland and what's going on over there. So hopefully I'll be able to get him on one day, and y'all can hear it firsthand also from someone who's actually over there. You know what I'm saying? That's his homeland. That's his people over there. He know it definitely what's going on over there, and so forth. So hopefully I'll be able to make that happen.
On the last part of your book, right? Matter of fact, it's the actual last sentence. You said in your observation, the people I say have learned, healed, and moved on positively.
Mm-hmm.
Learned, healed, and moved on positively.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down in my notes here in the U.S. That's what we need, our people.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dr. Joy, the group book, The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, she
Mm-hmm.
said earlier in the book she had took a trip. I believe she was in South Africa, somewhere she went, where they had previous conflict. And now everything had been different, right? But those people are way different now. And she compared it to us in the U.S. after what we've gone through compared to those people. And she was like, we have not been like atoned for. We have not been. You saw Joe Biden weeks ago did a big old thing to Native Americans and the apology and all the stuff he did. I'm reading the article the whole time, like, okay, that's cool for sure. But like, where is that for us? You know what I'm saying?
And we hadn't got it. You know,
So
they have.
how do we properly heal? It's not been acknowledged. It's not been atoned for. It's damn sure ain't no reparations, nothing like that. How do we move forward to
Mhm.
learn, heal, move forward? How do we do that?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard, man. I don't, and we got to stop waiting on before we heal. We got to hear it from the criminals. We got to hear it from the slave master. We got to hear it from the killer. We got to hear it from the murderer. We got to hear it from the rapist. We don't. We need to move forward. I think we need to set up some like when you go and you're a military vet, so you know if there's issues, you have post-traumatic, and I say we got post-traumatic slavery disorder. So when you got PSD in the military, they got places where you can go and you can get counseling and you can heal from the things that you've seen and some of the things that you may have done when you went to these other countries and fought, right? So I think we need some of those places set up, you know what I'm saying? So we can be able to, because it's not only physical, what happened to us is mental. So we need a lot of mental help as well. So we need mental centers set up, you know what I'm saying? We need community-based centers where we can go in and we can talk about the issues. We need community-based centers where we can be educated on some things that happen so we won't let those things happen anymore or our children go through some of the same things. We need to stop looking at each other as, okay, well, you a Hebrew Israelite, you call yourself a Moor, you say you a Pan-Africanist, you say you a Christian, you say you from the Nation of Islam, you say you from the gods of earth or the five percenters. We need to stop looking at each other separate and start coming together, right? And figuring out a plan together on how we can move forward because it has happened before. If you look at Marcus Garvey and the Marcus Garvey movement, you had all types of Christians. Every Christians you had Pentecostal, Presbyterian, you had Baptists, you had Methodists, you had Catholics. What's the name? Marcus Garvey was a Catholic Christian. You had Muslims that was a part of the UNIA. These people looked at each other as one. You practice whatever you want to practice in the comfort of your own home. But when we come together, we got one stride, we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna move forward in this direction, and that is progress.
And whenever Malcolm X evolved toward the backside of his life, he was talking like that, like, bro,
Yes,
leave your politics at the door, leave your
yes,
religion at the door.
yes.
When we come together and do this, we are all one. Because when we get stopped by the cops don't care if you like you said, a Muslim or a Christian. The cops don't care.
Hell no, they gonna
You a
chop
black, you a black man or woman in the situation, right?
you
So
down.
put all that to the side. That's all just sub stuff. On the overall, we all one people. We all together, man. I believe that as well.
Yeah, yep, me too, man. So we got to do that, man, to move forward. But again, the counseling is gonna be key. You know what I'm saying? Because I tell people all the time, I said, you hate yourself. Man, I don't hate myself. Yeah, yeah, you self-hate yourself because I hear you say all type of rhetoric. I just heard you call your daughter hair nappy. I just heard you say you rather go to a white man than go over here and patronize the black business over here. I just heard you say, man, shit, hell, we ain't smart. we ain't smart. Leave that up to, so that's self-hate. That's self-hate. So we need a lot, because we have been indoctrinated. We have definitely been indoctrinated. And I'm saying it right here. We've been indoctrinated through the religion. We've been indoctrinated through 12 years of college, 12 years of school, and 4 or 6, 8 years of college. Even though college ain't as bad as high school, but we're being indoctrinated. And I'm saying we're being indoctrinated because through the religion, your images of someone being in God image is white. Moses was white. You know what I'm saying? Adam and Eve was white. So you had all these Ruth and Naomi and all these people was white. Even though we know, when we look at the 4 river points in the Bible, the Goshen, the Gishon, the Goshen, the Pishon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. The Goshen and the Pishon is the white and the blue Nile that flows up and down through Egypt, Black Africa. And then the Tigris and the Euphrates, which is in Northeast Africa, that makes up the Garden of Eden. We know that place is in North Africa and Northeast Africa. We know Africa is a tropical continent. We know those people that existed there long before anybody else has dark hued skin, right? So man, we just gotta educate ourselves, man. We gotta educate ourselves. We gotta come together. We gotta get some counseling, and then we gotta plan, and we gotta strategize. That's just the bottom line.
Yes, sir, man. You done lit the airwaves up. Get a little fire still for your microphone, man. Your mic on fire right now, man. You smoking. You
Oh, let me
smoking right now with the microphone, man. But
let me
to close this out, again, like I said in the beginning, every show I'm able to do is a blessing, is a privilege, is an honor. But to have my actual brother on here on YouTube in this space, on this platform, was truly a blessing, is a gift. Kofi, so much love for you, man to man, brother to brother. You my man, you my dog, you my ride or die, man. And I really proud of what you're doing, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you the same way, man. You my dog. You know what I'm saying? You my ride or die. You my inspiration, man. And I'm gonna just keep saying it. These last 2 years we've been fooling with each other, man. I done learned so much, man, from you. You even taught me, man, how to put my guard down. Because a lot of stuff, man, I wouldn't even consider reading. I wouldn't consider following certain people. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't consider toning down. It's a lot of stuff. So I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, what you have done for me. You have poured into me, you know what I'm saying, as well as I have poured in you, man. And that's what it's about, man. You have brought value to my life, man. And that's what it's all about. If you in a relationship, friendship with somebody, man, make sure that, man, it is a valuable relationship, man. And you have and it's bringing value to you, man. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Man, the chat been lighting up the whole night. Thank y'all in the chat for y'all time and y'all staying around this entire time. Anybody watching in the future, thank y'all, man. Please go out support the work. Y'all been hearing about it all night long. Go and see it for yourself. Read it
Yes,
for yourself, man.
yes, go.
Beautiful, beautiful work. Beautiful work. And
Yes,
yes, audio book available. You can go get the audio book right now, tonight.
yes,
The
yep.
ebook available. You can't wait. Get the ebook, download it right now tonight. You can read it tonight. So
Mm-hmm.
tell them where to get it at, Kofi, please.
All right. You can go to Same Tree Different Brands Publishing.com to get the paperback book. This is the paperback book for those who love reading physical book. That's my sister. I know my sister, Dr. Wade. She's a lover of the physical books. For those who like listening, the audio book is available right now on Same Tree Different Brands Publishing, narrated by Carter Johnson, a music engineer out of New Orleans. If you want the ebook is also available right now on www.sametreedifferentbrands.com, man. So go support me in any way, man. I hope y'all appreciate it.
Kofi, before we get out of here, you have a string of interviews you're doing this week. You have a lineup. Could you
Mm,
please tell the guests where could they find you speaking about this further? I'm sure you got a wonderful lineup. Every host is gonna pull something different
mm.
out of Kofi on this topic. So please tell them where to go search and find these people or something like that.
Okay. I'll be on right now. We got a bumble book girl. That is Dear B on Instagram, right? She also is the person who wrote the forward in this book, this great forward. She set the book up, man. And I appreciate her. She also was a beta reader, so I'll be on her platform on Instagram Friday. I can remember the time. I think it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, 7. It just let me see. I'm gonna get it right for y'all so y'all know exactly the time.
I think
the
she still might be in the chat.
Yeah, so what is it if you I'm
She
trying to
said Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Y'all tap in, tap in, tap in. And then that's Friday. Saturday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. I'll be on the Black Book Club with my brother Tyree.
I love
We
that brother. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be on his platform at that Saturday at 1:30. And then on Sunday, I think it's at Sunday at 8 o'clock or 8:30. It's one of the two Central Standard Time. No, it's 8:30, 6:30 their time, 8:30 my time. I'll be on my beautiful sister Sipped and Read platform on Instagram, and we'll be going in on those things. So I got a few. I got 3
Hey
more.
man, it's my show. I can do what I want. Let's keep it going a little bit, right? Just a little bit more time, please. A little bit more. A little bit
Okay.
more.
All right, that's
Because I,
cool.
I want to highlight something for the future writers that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Your book just came out today.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just put it on Instagram. Oh, my book came out, y'all, and just fall back. Like, okay, the book out. Like you're actively having interviews. You're actively doing trailers, reels, commercials. You're actively doing other things. Like there's being a writer and there's being an author, right? I talk about it all the time. The business of books.
Mm-hmm.
You can just write something. I call that journaling, in my opinion. To be an author, though, it take doing the interviews. It take
Mm-hmm.
doing the pop-up shop. It
Mm-hmm.
take doing the book signings. It take doing the vending. It
Mm-hmm.
take all these things to be an actual author, in my opinion. That's how I feel about it. So
Yeah,
think about the importance of that, Kofi.
I agree with that, man. You have to like you can't you can't it's important to market yourself, man. It's definitely important to market yourself. We in a time now, like you writing something, you want people to be able to read it, and you want people to buy in to whatever you presenting. So you got to get out there, man. You gotta do the pop up shops. You gotta create your own venues. You gotta be able to produce content. You gotta be able to do your own you ain't gonna say do your own, but at least do some commercials. You gotta be consistent to continue to put this in people's first face to encourage them to read them. Because also in the essence of you doing this, in my opinion, it makes you better when you're doing this and you have people that buy your book and then they give the reviews. The reviews make you a better writer. It makes you a better writer. That's why we encourage and we do these things and encourage you to read and give a review. Hit us up whether you agree or you disagree. It only makes us better.
Look,
You know what I'm saying?
look how I said Kofi as a person, right? Because some folks say, well, I don't want to post too much. I don't want to be aggravating people, bruh. Mid Cafe or whoever are on my timeline all day, every day.
Mm,
Pepsi, Coke,
yep.
Sprite. Been
Mm-hmm.
there 43 years, a couple weeks. Sprite never changed the same damn Sprite can on my screen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So why would a multi-billion-dollar company do that? Why would I feel for my book? Oh, I don't want to post too much of my book.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
I'm putting in your face all the time, man.
Mm-hmm.
They do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why,
And
why,
I'm
why, why would I be different? You know what I mean?
most definitely. And that's what I'm like I said, because I wasn't gonna even do all this, man, for this book. I just feel like, like I said, I feel like the ancestors were talking to me and it wouldn't let me come. I ain't gonna say complete because I had just started this project. It wouldn't let me be creative and do what I need to do with this project because I needed to write this. I got it, I wrote it, I got a phenomenal person to do the forward on the book. I published it on 3 formats, and I was just gonna just fall back and just say it was out, but it's just not in me to just sit back and just say it's out, go get it. I have to promote everything that I got. Plus, I think it's a phenomenal story. It gives context, it clear up a lot of misinformation from people. You know what I'm saying? So now people can go and say, well,
Let me tell
you
you something. Dr. Kaba said a long time ago, the real intelligence is making something real large and making it small.
mm-hmm.
Anybody can make a small thing and just put a lot of fluff on it and make it big. Your
Mhm.
ability to take all that stuff and put it in 160 pages, that's supreme skill set,
Mhm.
supreme artistry, supreme grasp of the concept, right?
Mhm.
If I can't tell it to a third grader, that means I don't know it. That's what I was
Yep.
told.
Mhm.
You being able to do that shows your supreme mastery on subject matter. That's what I want to say about that.
Yep. 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 I definitely, man. I appreciate it, man. I
Right.
appreciate. Boy, I enjoyed myself. Golly, boy, I enjoyed
I'm
mine.
glad you. Hey, I'm glad you did, bro. That's my goal.
And excuse me too. I know what's name there, and them was saying, "Oh, Kofi getting hot." Yeah, I had got a lit hype and excited and
Of
got to
course,
talk.
a lot of folks on here only met you recently. They don't know about that part of you. So I'm glad it naturally happened. I didn't really make it happen, but I'm glad that you felt comfortable. You felt comfortable enough to, because it's important. You're
Yeah,
not just rattling on about something that's not. Some guys go on these crazy rants for no reason. This is important, vital information. Let's get excited about the right thing. Let's
yeah,
get bold about the right thing. People's
right.
online getting bold about crazy. Let's get bold about something that's important. Right. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you did that.
Yeah, man. I enjoyed myself. I said, dang, I started saying, man, to myself, calm down, man. You were getting
No.
too excited.
Nah,
And I
it's
got me enjoying
the Sean
myself.
P show. You can do
Yeah,
whatever you want, man. Do whatever you want.
yeah, man. So,
Don't pull no punches over here, man. Don't pull
yeah.
no punches over here, bro. So I
I,
thank y'all for the audience, man. We gave y'all a great 2 hour show.
mm,
Enjoy it. We're gonna slice it, we're gonna dice it, we're gonna republish it, we're gonna refurbish it. It's more content. And until my next guest, next time we're on the backside of the year, I might have like 1 or 2 guests left, maybe in December. And we're gonna close out, wait till 2025, have a new rollout, have a new game plan, man. But until next time, thank y'all very, very much. Peace.
peace. Yes, indeed.